Benjamin Franklin once said, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." The fact is, quality matters. Join us as we make quality fun, interesting, and accessible to companies of all levels. Quality Matters is a must-listen for all things quality. Listen in, ask questions, and get back to doing what matters most. Quality Matters, brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified.
Well, welcome back to Quality Matters. If you're watching online, you may notice, well, where else would they watch? That we now have a vertical format. So we're trying out something new. So we'll see how this works out. So I guess I need to not like point left and right if I'm trying to talk about Caleb. That's weird. Okay, whatever. All right, we'll go from here. So
it does make it easier because left and right on these is like confusing a lot of times.
It is. It gets all sorts of backwards, and it's bad. I didn't realize for a while, but apparently for several episodes last year, I had the camera was flipped, and I didn't know it. And so anytime there was writing on the screen, it was backwards for people. I guess things you should do if you're trying to make a lot of online content. But I'm not a professional content maker.
Getting there.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of a whole lot. That's kind of what it's going to be before the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think any business owner will tell you that now. Like, yep. I mean, either that or they're not a business owner anymore.
That's probably a good point.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. We want to do all this stuff for our, little family farm we're trying to build. And, Darcy's like, well, what do we need to do? I'm like, honey, we got to make tons of content for online. Tons of it. All sorts of stupid videos of our animals doing stupid stuff they do.
Yeah.
Except for the stupid one that decided to get a hook in its mouth last night or yesterday afternoon. So that's a fun one. Yeah, I called the vet on that this morning in case. Yeah, so folks not listening, we were chatting about this before we started. So I got a stupid little blue heeler, and she decided that she wanted to bite a fish hook that my kid left out by the tank. So now the dog's got a fish hook in its lip. And I can't quite get it pushed through. So we're probably going to have to get her to the vet, get her taken care of. All right. Enough of my random babbling. What are we talking about today? Because I'll talk about animals forever.
Well, I guess real quick, how's the horse doing?
He's doing pretty good. This weekend we had the first kind of bad day so far, but he looked a lot better this morning. His right foot, which hasn't really been that bad, I guess there was one spot that was like a big scab or something. I guess it came off, so he had a little bit of a nasty spot there. And then on the front, because horse hooves are effectively this oversimplification, but effectively compressed hair. I mean, it's very similar to like the nail on our fingers, but it's more like compressed hair. And so right there at that line where the hoof meets, little fur of their foot.
Yeah.
That's where the hoof grows from. And it's looking kind of real thin. It was it's not growing in quite right. And I think it A, got a little too dry, and B, I think I may have been putting the wrap on there a little bit too tight because I put the stretchy wrap to hold it on. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll put a thing of gauze on the bottom of it. Well, I'll clean it. That's about 15 minutes of washing it out with water because you can't let any dirt get in those cracks, it'll just abscess in there. So I'll spend about 15 minutes washing it with water, put some medicine on it, put a piece of gauze on it, wrap the hoof in gauze wrap. Of course, you got to go way up high and way up low. Otherwise, it'll pull off as they walk. And then I've got like this stretchy wrap that's fairly watertight that I'll put on there. But that stretchy wrap, if you wrap it too tight right there where the hoof meets the fur, it can damage that tissue. So now I'm having to make sure that I put extra gauze wrap over that and then be a little more careful with the stretchy wrap.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, is this new area, is that like one of the permanent bad signs you were talking about?
This one could be a showstopper as well. So I put a little bit of cream on it this morning, a little extra gauze on it, wrapping a little bit different. So we'll see where to go from here. So I guess if this was in, like business, we were doing design, I'd probably be issuing an ECN right now. Hey, we need to change a part of our work instruction for the application of the wrap here.
There you go.
I mean, it is. Look, it's the same stuff. Whether you're talking about it at home or work, like, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
You don't have written work instructions, do you, for your house?
I'm doing it, actually. Some of them, yes. So, like, if the power goes out, I have a work instruction on how to get the generator going and exactly what breakers to turn on and off. And I even marked the breakers in colors. So, like, everyone knows if the power goes out, we got to turn on the generator because we don't have the big fancy automatic, none of that crap, right? We're lucky our house doesn't burn down. The electrical work is so bad in it.
All right. Well, power is important. Generator starting, that's a whole thing. I mean, you know, you guys live out in the middle of nowhere. You're gone a lot. Okay, that's acceptable. Yeah.
And we're going to be going on a little trip over Thanksgiving, and the horse still needs doctored. So that's one of my tasks this week is to write a work instruction with pictures and everything on how to doctor the horse, so someone else can do it while we're gone.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
All right. Well, catching up on the home front then. So last week we talked about Deming's 14 points. I think we got exactly halfway through. So I think we ended the episode
on 7.
Yeah. And we were like, well, you know, we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll finish. Maybe we won't. So I think we will. I think there was a lot of good stuff in there. And I think it's just a good variety. It's kind of all over the place. So it's, you know, we kind of get stuck, I think, in these mindsets. And it's just a good way to kind of mix everything up. So
yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think at some point we need to pull out the whole handbook here. Tons of fun stuff in this. Once upon a time, I tried to do like a little daily thing for the podcast, and I pulled a lot of topics from it, but I can't keep up with daily stuff. I'm lucky to get a podcast out weekly.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
I can imagine doing this daily. I mean, I think that's why all the daily people do like current event stuff. Cause like, you know, you just talk about what's in the news that day and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was too much for me to keep up with. So I'm like, done with that.
All right. Well, so I guess I'll start as number 8 being, drive out fear.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, this again, you have to realize you work with people. I mean, I see a good example with this with my kids.
Well, hold on. Let me stop this real quick. Maybe what we should do is, if somebody didn't listen last week, we're talking about Deming's 14 points. Historical context is,
thank you.
They went over to Japan to teach them after World War II, and then Japan became the powerhouse. The U.S. freaked out. So I think in Deming's out of the crisis in 1980, he's like, we're getting our butts kicked globally. We need to do something here like we did in Japan. So here comes the 14 points.
We didn't listen to him. We should have.
Yeah, we're still learning that. So
let's see. Do I still have it?
Kyle's looking for something here.
Yeah. Okay, I thought I had another book up here. It's called Out of Another Bleeping Crisis.
If we don't keep listening, they're just going to be able to keep writing these books. I mean,
yeah.
So,
all right. So we're going to drive out fear. That's point number 8. I guess you can go back and listen to last week's for the first 7 points, and all this is coming out of Deming's book, Out of the Crisis. Again, very, very good book. Now, I will advise folks, if you're going to read this book, which I really, really strongly recommend for any quality manager, any business owner, educate. I mean, really, it doesn't matter the industry you're in. You could be anywhere from education, healthcare, welding, I don't care. The first half of the book is fantastic. The second half of the book, unless you're a math and statistics geek, stay away from. You'll know when you're there.
Yeah. Maybe go to the end, make sure you don't miss anything there. But
yeah, it gets a little tough in the second half of the book. But first half, fantastic stuff like this. So drive out fear. I mean, my oldest boy isn't really afraid of me. He isn't afraid of his daddy getting mad at him. And he's just going to do the job he's going to do. However, he's going to do it. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
My middle kid, if he gets afraid that he's going to get in trouble, stupid decisions start flying left and right. The moment he thinks he might get in trouble, it is almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that he's going to do something stupid to get himself in trouble.
Gets a little flustered.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, really, how different are we from kids in that regard?
We're not.
We're not. We're just big kids.
Yeah.
Just big kids. In any case, see, a little quote from the book here. So he says, hopefully I can read well enough. He's talking about expressions of fear, things that people say that really, really screw up, your productivity, company culture, so forth. He says, I'm afraid that I may lose my job because the company will go out of business.
Yeah.
Okay. That's going to influence your decisions.
Yep.
I have a feeling that Dave, a higher up, may move to another company. If he does, what's going to happen to me? You've had that situation. You got a manager you really rely on.
Yeah.
I could do my job better if I understood what happens next. Totally good point. I'm afraid to put forth an idea. I'd be guilty of treason if I did, right? I get that. Some managers work that way. They want everything to be their idea. They want to solve every problem.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that my next annual rating may not recommend me for a raise.
Yeah.
And if I did what is best for the company long term, I'd have to shut down production for a while for repairs and overhaul. My daily report on production would take a nosedive and I'd be out of a job.
Yep.
And it just goes on with all sorts of statements of fear like this, but people deal with this every day in the workplace.
I think one of the common ones that we talk about, we do a lot of consultation for people that don't necessarily have established quality management systems and things. And, when we introduce the concept of a non-conformance report, that's when people start, they get scared. They start thinking, oh, well, and then they quit reporting things.
Yeah.
And then they start fudging data. And then, those are not good things for a good quality management system. So it's funny because a lot of my examples of bad quality, like a bad quality system, come from one or two places. But I was really blessed to see a bad quality management system in action. And I just remember that, the fear culture was very prevalent. I mean, you'd have the shop manager in a breakdown just the kid fit in the shop floor because, and usually in the first comment was always, who inspected this, always who inspected it.
It's terrible.
But people would just, they'd throw away material, like they'd mess something up, they'd just completely throw it away, or anytime mistakes were just hidden. And it's
people are self-preserving. We are not units of production. Now, yes, there is a certain logic behind at some point you have to consider people as kind of a unit of production because you just know that you need so many people to get so many man hours to complete the work.
Yeah.
But that really has to be the end of looking at people as units of production. Like we really are people. We're not robots or automatons.
Yeah.
And, emotions and group dynamics of emotions, it changes a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talk, this might not be the right time to go down this rabbit trail. I'll let you decide on it. But like talking about the non-conformance report. I mean, obviously everyone listening to this knows how much I advocate that NCR is one of your best tools for improvement, for monitoring, for measuring, for all sorts of stuff for a small business. But we're getting more and more and more pushback. It's like every 6 months, there's more pushback on the term non-conformance report. People don't want to fill it out.
Yeah.
And they get quite offended that someone wrote, they're putting NCR on me. It's like, no, it's not. It's not a write-up. You're not in trouble.
Not a traffic ticket. No.
Yeah. Something went wrong. We recorded it. Hell, you should be recording it.
Yeah.
And so we've even been debating opting for a different term for it.
I remember. Yeah, we had that conversation not too long ago. I don't remember what the term was. Do you remember?
Yeah, so we were tossed around the idea of an opportunity for excellence.
That's right. Okay.
And, too many squishy millennials in the workplace. And, we all got, look, I'm one of them. I got a participation trophy for every sport I played.
Yeah.
I only kept the ones where I felt like I actually earned it.
Yeah.
But, we got a participation trophy for everything we did.
Yeah.
And they don't like to hear non-conformance. It wasn't a non-conformance. It just didn't. There was an accident. It was different. It's like, no, stop that crap. I don't care. I really don't.
Yeah.
But you can't say that to folks anymore.
Yeah. And we're drilling this home quite a bit. But I mean, I was going to say earlier, like the only remedy to driving out that fear with nonconformance reports is for everybody to understand what the goal is and for
Yeah.
everybody to be a part of the culture and
Yeah.
know that, there might be consequences, if
Mhm.
somebody's screwed something up, there might be, but it doesn't, recording it doesn't mean anything. You're just,
Yeah.
you're
So
entering data.
when I was say QHC manager, I mean, I don't know how many NCRs I issued, probably a couple hundred at least. But I would do some, I won't lie, there were times where I would write an NCR and it was because I knew I had someone that if they didn't get their act right, they were going to wind up getting fired. And
Yeah.
it was a little bit of documentation. I won't lie. Did bring up a few NCRs once, no, probably twice, meeting with an employee, but that's by no means the goal of it. What I would actually do for those employees that I needed a paper trail on is because I always walked around with a notepad and clipboard, is I just had a page for them. And every conversation I had with that guy, I'd write down the conversation I had, when I had it, and what we talked about.
Yeah.
And the NCRs were never issued to get the guy in trouble. It's just like, hey, you were involved in all of these issues.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe there's a common thread, which is the whole purpose of NCRs, is to find trends.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people got to get that out in their head.
Yeah. Just so, I mean, in summary, do not run your business on fear. I mean,
No,
it's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to get people to quit as soon as possible.
And we've got one customer that started using the NCRs for some internal improvement type stuff. So they created a new so this is all in TQA Cloud. You can do this, but I imagine other softwares, there's similar functionality and options. They created a new type of NCR for improvement.
Yep.
And so all of these, which, are effectively accept as is NCRs, is like, hey, this could have gone better. I'm noting that it could have gone better. Here's my comments as to why. And I'm not doing anything about it. I'm accepting it as is and moving on. It's like, okay, well, cool. Yeah, we can do that. So NCRs can be a fantastic tool for improvement, not to beat people up.
Yep.
All right. Do we want to talk about fear more?
No.
Cool.
I mean, I'm sure we will, but it's just crazy how all these intertwine, and you could easily weave in between all of these 9, stuff.
I agree.
It's crazy. Yeah. So you want to say number 9?
Yeah. So number 9 is break down barriers between staff areas.
Yeah.
So he starts out the section here saying people in research, design, purchase of materials, sales, receipt of incoming materials must learn about the problems encountered with various materials and specifications in production and assembly. Well, yeah, everyone's got to be involved, but I mean, this all sounds good, but have you ever been in a meeting where you had someone from sales, design, purchasing, receiving, production, all in the same room at the same time?
Yeah. It's generally chaotic, but
generally doesn't happen that way, but it could.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this is one thing that they did fantastically when I worked for a turbine company. Managers there were again, they like to work you. Wore the golden handcuffs, but they had a lot of good practices. And this was one of the things is we had daily production meeting. And I got to say, this was really amazing. Daily production meeting. We had someone from purchasing in there.
Yep.
We had someone from shipping and receiving in there. We had someone from maintenance in there. Those folks sat in on the production meeting for every shop.
Production.
And then we would have the shop supervisor and the shop engineer come in for that meeting.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, we used to do that too. Like the production guys looking at us watch the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But no, we just bring everyone in, and it made it work well. Because then it's like, oh, well, we need to talk about sending this off to coding. Well, there's the guy with shipping and receiving sitting right here making notes on it.
Yeah. And we used to do it. We'd go over, just kind of real quickly every project. It was like one sentence or 2 sentences, nothing. And then if you needed to spend extra time, the 2 people or 3 people involved would stay after and work it out. Just the good. One of the things I was going to say real quick that kind of summarized and helped me with that is, thinking of who your customers are internally, and it drills back into that whole, like, work with your supplier. So if you think about the whole production assembly as, you know, a customer, company customer relationship or whatever. Then that again, who's your supplier? Who's your
Yeah.
customer? Like, and it's
Yeah.
all people within the chain of production.
No, that's a real good point. That's a real good point.
Yeah. So that requires all the departments to, you know,
Yeah.
okay, well, this person's my customer. This department is my customer. I got to
Right.
know my customer, or I
Yeah.
have to know my supplier. So,
That's a good point.
yeah, it's a
And
good
that
way.
type mentality reduces some of the inner office politics and squabbling.
Yeah.
Kind of puts it in what can I do for someone of, you know, what am I being told to do?
Yep.
That's a good point. That's a real
Yeah.
good point. There was another one that I thought of this weekend. I was changing out the, we had to flush out the coolant for my son's truck, and he's got a 2008, you know, F-150. And he, you know, we're working on it. And I told him, like, we need to get a little hose to put on the little nipple at the bottom so that when we release it, you know, it can drain and it's not going to go all over everything. But I didn't have no hoses that would fit. And so, you know, he wasn't real happy with this because he loves that truck, man. He washes it, keeps it clean. He gets mad if any of us drive it and we leave junk in there, which my wife finds incredibly ironic. And so I was like, you know what, son, we're just going to let it drain and it's going to get over stuff and we'll just wash it out when we're done. It'll be fine. Yeah. Like most of them wind up in the bucket, but you're going to get some on the frame and underneath your truck. And he wasn't real happy about it. And he was like, Dad, why did they do that? Why did they design it like this? He's like, all they had to do was make that little piece of plastic just a few inches longer or put a hose on it to begin with.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, the person engineering, I say the person, the group, however, you know, works out, engineering the cooling system here, they weren't exactly concerned with how someone else is going to work on it in the future and if something's in the way.
Yeah.
I was like, because they're not going to be motivated to have that much back and forth conversation with each other when they're trying to put out a brand new vehicle every single year.
Yeah.
They're just not going to have time to pay attention to these things.
Yeah.
And that's, you know,
that's
an example.
The issue of, departments talking to each other. You got the, the coolant people, like, and the service people down the road are like, well, how are we supposed to, you know, drain the radiator with that thing there?
Yeah. Yeah. And then by the time someone thinks about it, well, we're already so far down the process that it don't matter. But,
you know, I think as I've gotten older and, you know, you start working on cars, or maybe you work on cars, you know, when you're younger, and then you start kind of really valuing good design and good engineering. You know, I used to remember hearing the term German engineering, you know, from like the 90s and stuff. I think like BMWs and stuff, Mercedes, I think. And I think that was part of it. People were saying they're really easy to work on because they actually thought about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was funny because, you know, he's still a teenager. So when he thinks engineer, I'm not degrading engineers. But when he thinks engineer, he like puts these on like the highest pedestal and echelon of someone that can do stuff. And I'm like, here's what you got to understand. Some engineers a lot of times are really guilty of designing something that works amazingly well, but is totally unusable.
Yeah.
Because they just don't consider that the human hand can't bend and maneuver and fit in that space.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're kind of like the quarterbacks of a football team. They get all the credit, and, you know, all the, you don't hear about the guys that actually have to put it together and that kind of thing. So
you don't hear about the lineman that's had 3 concussions this season.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, number 10. Ooh, here you go, Kyle. Eliminate the slogans, exhortations, and targets for the workforce.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is a good one. Now, I will say I 95% agree with Deming here. I do think there is a place sometimes for slogans and targets and things of that nature. But the main point Deming makes here is if you have a slogan, let's say your slogan is 0 defects. Okay. Yeah. 0 defects preached all day, every day. 0 defects, 0 defects, 0 defects. Okay, great, fantastic. I've seen the same thing on safety culture for 0 incidents, 0 injuries. Okay, cool. That sounds awesome. Well, what about when it happens and now you're the dummy that did it or it happened to?
Yeah.
Do you report it?
No,
you just wash it under the rug.
Yeah.
And you know what it does? That's if too much sloganeering creates fear. Because what is it? We're not giving these slogans for, hey, awesome if we do it. It's fear. And even if there's a reward if we do it, now there's fear if we don't get the reward. You have just institutionalized fear in your organization, especially if you do this at an early stage in the implementation.
Yeah, I think this one definitely, especially with today's culture and, the whole like manifestation and all that, like, oh, well, we need to label this. And I think a lot of people would disagree with them. I don't personally have an opinion. I mean, you're the more experienced with seeing all the different stuff and, the slogans and everything, but it's just it's a pretty complex statement, I think. And, especially with the targets, the list I have here says, so eliminate slogans, exhortations, and targets for the workforce. They do no good and are often seen as putting down the workforce, treating members like children. If the teams want to create their own slogans, let them. So maybe a department wants to create their own slogan or, that kind of thing, like he's saying. But I would have to read more about, because I couldn't imagine a quality system without targets. Like, I wonder what the context would be with that.
We need to do an episode on the red bead experiment.
Okay. Yeah.
We need to do an episode on the red bead experiment. I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail too much here, but I will say his next point, eliminate numerical quotas for the workforce.
Yeah.
Well, that goes perfectly with the slogans, because the slogan's almost always geared towards a number. And it's the same argument. It's like people are going to work to hit the number, but not the purpose for the number.
Yeah. So I guess when you talk, I can completely understand that. Like, you think about like theory of constraints and that kind of thing. That what was that? Eli Goldratt, I think his name was, or something like that. I have it sitting right over there. The goal. Yeah, that's what it's called. So he talks about like focusing less, I think, on the end result and more on the process. And if you eliminate everything that's clogging up the process, you're going to have better, you're going to have production. So
now, in my opinion, the best way to do that is every time something goes wrong, something could be better, issue a non-conformance report.
Yeah. Figure out what's going on.
So, you know what? Seriously, I want anyone listening to this, I want your feedback. I want your opinion on this. I want you to email me. You can email me personally, kchambers@texasqa.com. Comment below on the video on YouTube, whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
I want to know what people's thoughts are on non-conformance report for minor things, not itching on, but the term, or do we like to embrace this new opportunity for excellence that I've seen floating around in various spheres of the quality world?
I mean, my personal answer to that would be like, I don't care what it's called, as long as
it call it unicorn farts for all I care.
Yeah. As long as it achieves the same thing where, you issue a potential corrective action, you identify, the who, what, when, where, as long as it's documented. Yeah. You can call it, Form E1384, whatever.
Now, saying this, I recognize that you're sitting there wearing a trucker's hat and I got, a longhorn skull behind me.
Yeah.
So we may have different opinion of things than folks do. I'm the same. I don't think it really matters. I think it tends to overcomplicate things when we have to introduce a new term and then explain to people what it means. But we've gotten a fair amount of pushback on it. I'm finding it harder and harder as the years go on to get people to engage with reporting nonconformities.
Yeah. And I think you break that down and you look about, okay, well, why are they being triggered? Why are they being offended? It's not because of the name it is.
They feel like it's a write up
because of what it is.
Yeah. They feel like it's a write up, or they're getting in trouble, or they're getting someone in trouble. It's got this because non-conformance, that's a bad term.
Yeah.
That means problems, messed up. So I don't know. In any case, I'd like people's opinion on it. Maybe I'm making too much of it. Maybe I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I'd like to hear what people are seeing, what people are thinking. So yeah, 11 was eliminate numerical quotas. I mean, we touched on that with targets and stuff like that. But the subtext in this book, which is the quality management for organizational excellence. I'm using it because it's right here on the inside cover. You got the 14 points here, but this says
Now,
quotas send the signal to the people that the volume is what counts, not quality or processes. They force people to achieve the quotas no matter what the cost in terms of waste or company reputation, which is pretty much what we just touched on. Like, you set quotas, you're going to get quotas, and that's it. Like,
yeah. I mean, I get it. And like, it's, what do we want to get accomplished in an 8-hour day? Okay, cool. Then that's where we're going to get and how many we're going to have pushed through. I don't remember which book it is. It may even be on the crisis here. And read a few of them. He makes a point about what if, let's say the goal is 90%, right? Anything, whatever this number is. And if we drop down below 90%, it's a problem. And let's say one guy is running at like an 89% pass, but we want a 90% pass. And, the inspector knows him, knows his kids. They got lunch together. Life's good. They're friends. They've been at each other's events and stuff. So he doesn't want to see his buddy get in trouble. And it's only one piece.
Yeah.
So what if we fudge a couple of numbers?
Yeah.
Where's that end?
Yeah.
I mean, how far does that go? You got stuff like that.
All right.
That doesn't mean, though, that KPIs and numbers are invaluable. So like quality objectives, I tell folks, your quality objectives are effectively a litmus test for the system. Once your quality objectives start going south, you've already had problems in the system for a while that you need to go fix.
Yeah, we're like I hate to even compare us to this, but we're like the preachers in the Sunday church. Like, listen to what I say, but go go research it for yourself, learn the context. I mean, you show the book to the viewers. It's 900 pages.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's a big old.
So it's full of context for all of these things. Especially if you're a new quality manager and you hear us talking about don't set quotas and go, like, you definitely have to understand the context.
Yeah. It's like, how many units are we going to produce today? How many, service calls are you going to make today? I think we've all been in the situation before. Say you have like a plumber or an AC repairman come out and man, they're just hustling through as fast as they can. They don't do a very good job. They don't clean up after themselves and they're out the door because they got the next call they got to get to.
Yeah. I got 7 more to do today. Yep.
And look, that's why we love our vet. Our vet does house calls. But it may be that he's here an hour early. Maybe he's here 2 hours late, and we don't fuss about it.
Yeah,
because we know we've been the reason. He's been 2 hours late before.
He stayed at your house 2 hours late. Yeah,
yeah, and it's like he's going to stay until the job's done, regardless what that means. And we've also been there when it's like, man, I just paid you $1,100, and you're out in an hour.
Yeah,
shoot. But you know what you get. In any case.
Yep. So I mean, point being there, definitely go look this stuff up, go read about it, and yeah. So number 12, remove barriers to pride of artisanship.
This is a good one.
One of the things that I first heard when I became a welding inspector, and it's very funny because our head welding inspector, the guy had worked pipeline and had the pipeline stickers and the hats and, generally dirty, which is the sign of pride for an inspector and that kind of thing. Anyway, so he would say welders are prima donnas. And I mean, that was one of the things that I heard real quick. And it was, I mean, I haven't even read the subtext here, but you insult a weld the way a weld looks or a welder, and like, especially one that really takes pride in their work, like it's you're setting up barriers there if you're not careful about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got any thoughts on that or stories or.
No, I mean, again, this is where we have to really.
I may have just missed the point. Actually.
No. I think you're on it. It's like you can't let people feel like they're just a unit of production.
Yeah.
Again, like people really have to feel like they're people.
Yeah. I was thinking about it in the context of like, get rid of that. But I mean, I don't even know why I was sitting there thinking that. But you do have to be careful. He's
expecting people to just be a unit of production. Welders are a great example of F you. Don't care. I'm doing my job. I like my job. I'm good at my job. And I take pride in my job. Yeah. And that has to be allowed to be fostered. What's going to happen with welders for sure. If you don't foster it, they go the total opposite direction. I think most other industries, folks just tend to kind of feel beaten down, subdued.
Yeah.
They go to work just to do the minimum so they can go home. That's what you get if people don't get to be excited about what they did.
Yeah, and I mean, every process has its own like artistic, you know, as a welder, like I used to always equate that to, you know, thinking like, oh, this is very similar to art or painting, you know, like you got to be in the zone and you got to be, you know, if you're producing a good weld, and like people do take pride in that. And then if you're coming in as an inspector and you're just seeing it, like you said, as like a unit of production, and you're just like, that looks like garbage, that's terrible, when really all it was, you know, maybe a little pinhole because their gas, you know, flowed a little differently for that split second. You don't want to ruin that you don't want to ruin that.
I've seen it as an auditor before when I go through and you know, just do the job auditing. So one of the things I legitimately try to do is if I see someone doing something that in my untrained eye appears impressive, or they've got a really clean work area, or, you know, they clearly, even if it's just a production line and they're just pulling stuff, placing, pull in place. But man, they just look like a machine doing it, and they're doing a damn good job at whatever it is, even if it's the simplest freaking task in the world. Compliment them on it.
Yeah.
Man, how long you been doing this?
Yeah.
I've been here 11 years. I can tell, dude, man, you're going good. You're doing a good job, man. This work area. You keep this clean? Yeah. Thank you, man. That's good stuff. Thank you. Just little things like that. And then you see them like well up with pride, and it's like no one's ever said anything nice to them.
Yeah.
Like, my gosh, they're making the money for you.
Yeah. It's and that may be hard. You know, it's hard for me. It's maybe hard for some people, especially people that don't really take compliments very well, or, you know, certain, like it's hard to give them because you're just, oh, well, but you have to. I mean, and all you do is you think about like, oh, well, that felt nice when that person complimented me, even though I'm not going to let it get to my head, you know, that there's a place for it. And I think we got to move fairly quickly here with the rest of them.
Yeah.
So 13, institute a vigorous program of education and retraining, you know, kind of ties into 6.
Yeah.
But I think here they're trying to touch on retraining.
Well, and that's one of the okay, so this is something that we run into discussions on implementation of the software. We always encourage people like, look, you've got to put a retrain interval on here. Well, we just need to train once. That's all. Once and done. Some stuff that's cool. Once and done is good. Yeah. But some of it, like at some point, you want to go around and do a reevaluation of their training. Well, I don't want to have to retrain them on everything. Well, fine. Write into your training document, the initial training covers all these materials, and then we'll do a refresher in 3 years that covers these materials.
Yeah.
Cool. But
every major profession, like every certified major profession has to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure if you're part of a governing body, like, you know, CWI or any sort of medical stuff, like you have to do continuing educational credits and all that stuff. So,
and you got to make sure you folks are trained up, still remembering, still doing stuff well. Lord knows as time goes, bad habits form, and man, our memories are pretty pliable.
Yeah. I mean, you think about safety, like, you know, you do something the same way for a year and maybe you forgot that there was even a guard for this tool or something. Like,
you know?
Yeah,
no, absolutely. Okay. So what's the last one here?
The last one, take action to accomplish the transformation.
Okay.
And I think it's talking about, you know, like the total quality transformation. And that's what this subtext for even number 13 was talking about, is like retraining on the total quality process and, you know, accomplishing the total quality transformation. You know, that you'd have to go through things like culture and your you know, how it's instituted and that kind of thing. So,
well, and how many times have we seen through consultation process, a customer will get to about 60, 80% of the way to the goal. Yeah. And then they just kind of slow down and, well, we're doing pretty good. We're doing better than we were. I'm like, you're not there yet.
We're tired. Yep.
Yeah. Like, you're not there yet. Just another 3 months of pushing and then you can maintain.
Yeah.
But they don't see it through. They just get most of the way. And unfortunately, it's usually not until we come along with the internal audit and we get Dawn to slap them in the face with the audit report that they're like, oh, yeah, we still got stuff to do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, and you know the 14 where it kind of highlights take action to accomplish the transformation.
Yes.
So
Yes. You know, it has to be a push. And you know what? Yeah, that does mean that other things get pushed to the side or other things aren't as important. But this is, you're not putting a management system in place for short-term goals.
Yeah. And that means everyone too.
Yeah, it does. Well, cool. All right. So again, we're solving world problems bit by bit. Of course, I think if folks would actually read and listen to Deming, we wouldn't have much of a job. So I don't know if I'm grateful that people don't listen to him or not.
People couldn't write books anymore, and like out of the next crisis.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Man, I had a Darcy read because she was a teacher for years, a little bit on some of his talks on education and testing. And oh man, she about had a conniption fit because of the way our education system's run. But that's the topic for another day. Cool. Well, that's all I got. As always, like, subscribe, share. And we're seeing a lot of good traction on the podcast, so we need it. And I want your feedback and your comments on NCRs, and if that is an overly negative term that might be prohibiting folks from recording and reporting good data points.
Yeah. Tell us how dumb we are too. Whatever.
All right, guys. Y'all take care.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." The fact is, quality matters. Join us as we make quality fun, interesting, and accessible to companies of all levels. Quality Matters is a must-listen for all things quality. Listen in, ask questions, and get back to doing what matters most. Quality Matters, brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified.
Well, I played the wrong one there. I played the new intro instead of the exit music.
It's an extra.
Yeah. Oh, well, that happens.